And welcome in, everybody. My name is Josh. This is Gaming Toy Channel, and we are going to do a little bit of live modding today. I put my energy where my mouth is. If you guys remember, we did a little bit of a tour of Harrison Farms, the Harrison Farms map by SMBModding, a couple weeks ago, or like a week ago. I was included in one of my map tours. And, well, there's a couple things wrong with it. Now, I actually reached out to SMBModding. He actually responded to the video, said thank you for the tour, and he was explaining why the stuff was not working and yada yada yada. And we ended up getting into talking on Discord, and he said it's okay for me to go ahead and fix the stuff that was broken. And so that's kind of what we're gonna do today. So let's jump into it and let's see what we got. So we're going to start down here in the, we're going to start, see if I can open the folder before I switch screens. I hate you can't zoom in on this video. Here we go. Here we go. And we don't need our wheel cam. We do need the other camera. There we go. Got that camera. I'm going to move it. It's in the wrong place. We're going to get this over in the corner of the screen today just because we don't want to block very much of the code. All right, here we go. So, video. Why is this the wrong size? Why is that not showing the right thing? See that? That's super weird. Hold on. Let me fix that. There we go. I don't know what I was doing. It's doing some kind of duplication or something or other. Great, now the camera's frozen. All right, are we actually running now? Come on here. There we go. All right, so we're gonna start here in the middle, and this is just the folders that I'm working on. So I basically made my own copy of the folder, and here is the overview of the map. So the first thing we can do, the first thing that's relatively simple that this map didn't have, is it doesn't have an icon, which is kind of silly. He's got this preview image. If we look at it, he's got this preview image of kind of like a harvester. And let's just go ahead and use that. So first of all, we have a preview image, which I already fixed. So The original preview image was this image right here, which is just a photograph, probably from the internet. But our preview image for the game needs to be square. Most everything in Giants needs to be square. So I had to actually edit the image to make it square. So all I did was move the image to the bottom. And add blue background, and then feather it so that it did the normal. So this is our new preview image, right? So it definitely has to be square. 2048 by 2048. Pretty simple change. And then this one, we're going to go ahead here and open this with Affinity Photo. We're going to create a quick thumbnail. Now, since this isn't going to ModHub, it doesn't need to adhere to ModHub thumbnail rules. But thumbnails on ModHub are typically allowed to be 512 by 512. So we take our crop tool, we come over here, and let's just get the harvester. We don't need all of the background, just get the harvester. And so what we're going to do is get a good, nice crop of this harvester with a little bit of background, like that. And then we're going to make this into a square. Because as I said earlier, everything with Giants needs to be square. 303 by 303, that's good. Let's move it right there. Crop, document, resize document, 512 by 512, resize, export. Wait, why is it not? It's not centered. Let's go back. I didn't have it centered. It has to be centered. That's important. Centering is important. There. Let's try that again. We are centered. Vertically, it needs to be taller. 354, 330, 354. Now it's like the header is, I mean, like the body of the harvester. That's good. I don't want it to be closer. It's nicely centered. And then we're going to document, resize document, 512, and then hit resize. Should still be centered. Export as a PNG. Export. We're going to put this into the folder we were just in, which is help, Harrison Farms. We're going to call this icon. Save. Quit. No. And I was actually doing that all off another screen. Sorry about that. I just totally realized that was on another screen. So what we did is we just took this image, we cropped it down so we have an icon. But the icon PNG won't work. It has to be a DDS. So we have to go in here and edit that icon to make it a DDS, which is pretty easy. We're going to open it up in GIMP. Take this as our new icon. And then we're going to go in here, export as DDS, export, replace, because we're replacing the one that's there, DXT1, export. Done. Now we have an icon. So if we were to open it up in the game, we're going to have an icon, which is nice. And we're going to have a preview image. So let's check the two things we just did. We created an icon. And I know you didn't see it when I was creating the icon. All I was doing is cropping it in Affinity in my photo editor. But we took the image that came with the map, and we basically took this image and turned it into both a preview image, which is the square 2048 by 2048, and an icon, which is what shows up on the thumbnail. So someday here, when the game loads, come down here to this. Go over here to what's going on? Oh, I forgot to hit save. Sorry. Let's try it one more time. Yeah, so the goal here is to... I don't want to say fix, because that assumes it was broken. And it's not necessarily broken. I think what I'm doing here is improving Harrison Farms to make it a little bit more playable. Because right now there's some weird gotchas in the map, and they were just kind of set up weird. And so we're going to fix some of that weirdness. And we're going to look into the code, see how the code was written, and fix the code too. And hopefully fix some of the errors that are showing up in the log. Which is obviously a little bit of a bummer. And for most players, they would see errors in the log, like all this stuff. They'd be like, what's going on? I don't understand. So Harrison Farms is here. Why is that showing up? Hold on, let me double check something. Okay, so that's what's going on. It's not this Harrison Farms, it's this one. So this is our new one, which has the full background of the image, right? Instead of that weird zoomed in, like, so this is the one that's broken, which isn't really a preview image at all. And this is the real image, which is a little bit better, right? So this is the preview image that we fixed. And if we hit continue, you can see that our icon is here now too. It's not there, but we can fix that too. But that's essentially what we're doing. So we don't need the game open for that. We're going to move the original map into our folder that we're working in. This is our folder. And then let's go into the mod desk. Let's start with the mod desk. So here's the mod desk for Harrison Farms. And as you can see from my file tree here, we are Harrison Farms. Right, this is the map we're looking at. We're looking at all the stuff we just created, the PNGs, blah, 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 all that stuff. First of all, at the top, I believe this said version 1. It said version 1. Okay. That's not how it works. This should say SMBModding. The current version is 95. So we have to make sure if we're planning on going to ModHub, I don't know if we are, but we always kind of make the most recent version. The version numbers in Giants are meant to be in a 4-number version, not 3, 4. Semver is 3, so Semver is semantic versioning, and that's 3. For whatever reason, Giants is using a 4-number version, so I like to say that the first one is the release version, the second one is major, third one is minor, and the fourth one is patch. So if I make a change, it's just like a really tweak to the map. It's called a patch change. And then if I would do that, I would update that to 1.01, right? So we're at least at 1.01 because we changed the icon. That's a really super minor change, right? Preview. So the icon is an icon, not a preview. It's an icon. So we want icon.dds, which is the one we made. So icon. This is going to be our new icon name. And then if we go over here to our thing, the DDS we made, we're going to rename it icon Harrison Farms.dds. And then this one we're going to leave called preview. So we're going to come down here. So the first of all, there is a map description, but there isn't one because it's not going to ModHub. But if you were going to go to ModHub, you would need to have both an English translation and a German translation of the description. Right now, in a good description we could take from would probably be the description that's on here. So Harrison Farms' site is here. This would be a great description to put in that content, right? So we could take this, we could copy it, and we could take this. Yay, now we have a description. It's a farm in Northwest Ohio with a working of about 450 acres IRL. Cool. This is my first ever FS map. Just fixing the English here. Which is a farm in Northwest Ohio. Okay, here we go. So we're not going to mess with that. It's not really important to what we're doing here. Next is the map information. Okay, so a map, in your mod desk, you define the map itself right here. So the reason it says maps and then map, almost all maps you'll see will only have one. But you could have two maps. Like you could have a map, Harrison Farms clean, right? You could have a clean version of Harrison Farms with no buildings whatsoever. And you can control that through the files that you load here. We're not going to load that. We're not going to care about that, but you could have more than one map. For example, New Frontier has more than one map. And the reason that it has more than one map is because of that. It has more than one line in the map file. Now, everything else here is fine. The title is fine. The description is fine. We don't really care about that stuff. This is the preview that we just defined. And it has 4 config files. So it has a... and here's where the problems start to happen, right? Actually, no, not really. Our config file is the map US. Our vehicles, our placeables, our items file names are all here, which relate to these files here. So if you think of vehicles, this file is right here. And the reason that the game doesn't have any vehicles, or the map doesn't have any vehicles, is because there's no vehicles to find. Maybe we'll actually, I already talked to Harrison Farms about what kind of equipment would be there. And I'm going to go ahead and make vehicles that'll show up on the farm. We'll do that at some point, either today or some other day. But so that's how the mod desk, the beginning part of the mod desk work. Now here is the first, we're going to save. Here's the first quote unquote problem that I've seen. Is the next thing that's defined are the store items. So store items in a map, you need to define every single thing that is either placed on the map or is placeable through the menu system. Everything the map has in it, anything that's placeable, you have to actually list it in this file. And so you can see here, he has a store items block with a lot of these like Farmers Co-op, the 81 by 120 shop, Western Iowa shed, which is, you know, great. So he has all of these things. I'd like to have them all together with their, like the groups together so that like the grain bins are together. This need to be here. Personally, I like to have them so like I know that, hey, I have 3 things from the Meridian grain pack. I have the Quonset from the American shed pack. I have the shed RW from the 32 by 32 barn, right? I just like it to be a little bit organized. That's fine. But the next part is where it gets a little bit confusing. And this is the part that's confusing to me, not necessarily to anyone else, but to me. And I don't understand how, I understand what happened. So, and then you have placeable types. So sometimes you need a custom placeable. So in this instance, he made something called production point 2, which is probably used by one of these things. I'm assuming it's being used by the Farmers Co-op. And it basically made a buying station and selling station and a pallet buying station all in one placeable, which is great. Here's the problem. Then he added this, which is another store items block. But the game is never going to read this. It won't ever read it. Because the game only accepts one store items block. So everything down here, like this store items block, this placeable type, it's not going to read. This placeable, it's not going to read. This placeable, not going to read. Not going to read. Not going to read. It's not going to read any of this stuff. None of it is going to get loaded into the game, which means if you're not loading something into the game properly, it's probably not going to work right. Now, the reason is, and the reason those are there, and the reason that happened, is because when you're including, and this is just like a new developer thing, I'm sure, but when you include placeables, he has all these like placeable packs, right? We talked about that up here. And to get those things into the game, you have to actually include them as store items. So it's most likely he went into here and he went into this mod desk and he said, oh, I need this and I need this store item. So I'm going to copy and paste them into my mod desk and call it a day. Unfortunately, that doesn't work. So I can see kind of what he was intending, but it won't work that way, which is unfortunate. So what we need to do is we need to combine these things all into one block. So what we're going to do is we're going to go like this. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to move it right there. Right? And then I'm going to take this placeable type. And I'm going to take it up here and put it into the placeable type. Same thing with the store items and placeable types. The game expects one block of this, like multiple types, store items. It only expects one block. You can't have multiple. It won't work. It'll just ignore the other ones. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a minute or two and combine these all into one. Now, one thing that's going to do is that's actually going to probably cause a few errors. And I can already see the errors getting caused as I'm copying and pasting here. But that's fine. Come up here. And one thing we can do is we can come in here like this, close that, and open up 2 copies of our mod desk so I can stop scrolling. And here, and I can do this. And then I can do this over here. This there. That there. Now all of these store items are actually now wrong. So we're going to have to update the paths for all those store items. Because it would be nice to be able to place all of those things while we're playing the game. I mean, they're included in the map. It's included in the download size of the map. So we might as well be able to place them in the game, which will give you more options when building out your map on this map. They're all included. Right? So we can get rid of that one. Right? So we have the harvest store. It's right here. Close that. So we only want one block for the translation block. So we have to combine all of this stuff together. Do we get the 25 by 25 hay shed? Looks like we might have missed that one. It should be right here. And we got these, and we got that. All right, so now we can close this extra copy of our file. Now if we look at it, we have one set of store items. They're all in one place, which is perfect. This is what we want. It's what we need. Now, next thing. This is just new. This is just stuff to learn that you learn over time, stuff that I learned over time. This is not needed. Root node placeable is not needed. That's something from FS 19 or 17. And so we don't need that. So we're just going to take that out of all of them. Root node placeable. I'm going to take this out right here. Get rid of all those. They're not needed. And I was editing multiple lines all at once, so I'm going to make sure all my edits are correct. Perfect. Now, all of these things are in a directory inside the mapdir, but we're in the mod desks now, so this little mapdir thing is not needed. So we can take that out for all of them. Bye. And then all of them have to start with placeables 3-sided shed. Now, why? Why am I making it like that? Because that's where they are. If you look at the file tree placeables, Harrison Farm Gaming /placeables. And then if I want to look at the 25 by 45 hay shed, it's 25 by 45 hay shed. And then the items inside of that 25 by 45 hay shed is /shed. So it's /shed.html, right? Which is here, right? You have to have the full path. It has to be there. You can't ignore it. It has to be there. So like this one, it's missing a couple. We can't just load shed GW. That doesn't exist. So we're going to do that. So if we look here, that's 50 by 72 Morton. For some reason, there's 2 copies of 50 by 72 Morton. Are those the same? Shed GW. Shed RW. Why is there 2? BGRW. BGRW. BB. What's going on here? Is there a BB on this one? Are these the same? Yeah, they're the same. Cool. So we figured out very quickly that we have a duplicate in here in the placeables folder, so I can delete that. Goodbye. I don't need that. This one, rename that. And now we saved ourselves a whole bunch of space because we made the file smaller. If we look at the 70 by 52 Morton, we have shed BB, shed BG, GW, and RW. Personally, I would like to see these things in alphabetical order, but that's fine. And again, we're going to go through all of these and figure out why is it doing what it's doing. So like the harvestor, this needs individual harvestors. Like it has to be, you have to have the full path or it's not going to work. So we have the 20 by 80, 25 by 80, and then the US and non-US version. So we have the Canada version, the non-US version. That's fine. And we don't need this anymore because we're loading the full pack down here. So a lot of these we're going to be able to remove up top because we're properly loading the full pack down below. So you don't want to have the same placeable in you don't want to have the same line in your store items in multiple places. That just doesn't work. And so if we look, Western Iowa shed, machine shed 1, 2, 3, right? This. Now there is a change we're going to have to make to all of those things, and I'll show you that in a minute. But since we have machine short, the Western Iowa shed, it's down there. And again, we're going to have to go through this line by line to fix all of these things. Now the next thing for every single one of these placeables actually are the flat bottom bins. Where's that? Flat bottom bin. Meridian grain bin pack. Copy relative path. Placeables. So instead of just using the Meridian grain bins that are in the game, they're included in the map. They're included in the map. There's no reason not to include them. We're going to go ahead and make sure we include all of the Meridian grain bins so that if you're playing this map, you can actually place whichever one you want. Go ahead. All right, so now we have that. There's a slash flat here? No. Why is this slash flat here? I don't even know why that's there. This slash flat doesn't make sense. Get rid of that. So now if you look at the Meridian grain bins, we have all of these flat bottom bins. But it looks like now this is where it kind of gets a little bit hairy. Is it looks like to make his map smaller, he only included 3 sizes. So the 3609, the 1825, and the 1615, because this Meridian grain bin pack is not on Mod Hub yet. So are the 3 sizes up here? So that's true. So here's the placeables for the Meridian grain bin pack. We're gonna take this out of here, and instead of, because we don't have all of the items that are in that pack, we're gonna do this. And just include the 3 that are there because we don't have them all. And that makes sense. Like this hoppers, what's a hopper? I'm assuming if we look at the grain bin packet, this is going to be the mod desk from the grain bin pack. Yeah. So this is the mod desk from the grain bin pack. He edited this pack, what he included in his mod, and did not include a lot of the extra stuff. So, which means that in our mod desk, we can't include that extra stuff because we don't have it. So they have to be 1-to-1. So it has to be a 1-to-1 between what's in your map and what's not in your map. And so, like for the Western Iowa shed, we have machine shed 3, 2, and 1. I think we have that up here too, right? Looks like we got that twice. So that one's all set. And there we've gone through all of our placeables. Now, each individual placeable, if we come in here, let's say the shed BB, I bet you that one's not edited, right? Let's look at that one real quick. We're not going to do them all today. I could do them off stream, but I'm just showing you what needs to get done. So we look at shed BB. See how this image icon here? This is the two things that are most important. See how the image says store shed BB, which exists right here. It's an icon for the image. But that's not where it is. If this was in this placeable pack, wherever he got the placeable pack from, that's where it was in that pack. But now that that pack is part of the map, you need to update it like this. This needs to be here. So your image, and if you remember when we were touring the map, a lot of the image icons were broken. And you keep getting errors in the log because there's a broken icon. And when you looked at it in the map, the icon is missing. This is why. And it's a pretty simple fix. All we have to do is come in here, make sure we have this placeables path set for both of these. We're making sure we're using the non-underscore version of the map. And we're making sure we point to the i3D. So any of the files that are pointing to locally, and for most stuff like this is a really simple placeable. There's only two things, but if you have a vehicle or something like that you're including with your map and it points to a sounds file, you have to make sure that those paths are always set. So if we look at shed BB, let's look at shed BG. We're going to come in here, and shed BG is now something we can place because we added it. And so I just have to go in here and add this path into all of these. And that means when we get into the game, all of those things will show up properly, right? And so I'd have to go through every single placeable that not really every single placeable, every single store item that is being referenced to load with the map needs to be relative to the map. So if you're getting a placeable pack to include in your map, you can just go ahead and include it, but you have to actually... How do I turn on streamer mode? Why is this not detecting that I'm streaming? There it is. Streamer mode. Enable streamer mode. Go away. I don't want Discord notifications while I'm streaming. Gosh. Is it back? I hope it's back. All right, so as we're going through it, we have to make sure that if you want to keep your file size down, remove the stuff you're not using. But if you're going to include it in the file size, then give it to the players. So that's my point here, is that like we were looking at the American Shed Pack, right? Right, so the American Shed Pack, Quonset, Quonset 2, Polished Beige, Polished Blue, Polished Gray, Polished Blah, all of these things, right? If we're going to include this into the pack, into our zip file, let's give it to the players in case they wanted to place a different color, right? So I'm going to go ahead and as we did before, edit these things to make sure that the URLs are right. So Quonset, Quonset 2, Pole Shed Red. So all of these, the big file here is the i3D file. So if you're including the i3D file, you might as well include it into the map. Because that means not only you won't have errors, but it also gives the players more options when they're making their map. So I'm just going through here quickly, making sure the icons are updated, making sure the store is updated. And all of these things that are in here, I'm making sure that they're all there. Like the right paths are there, which allows me to include all of that stuff. Save. Save. And so if we went into the game right now, I'm not just comment that one out. I don't want to show it. All right. And so we've done that with all the placeables. I could go through all of them. Some of them are going to show up as errors. I think this one, let's find this. This one is still an error. So why I looked at this and I'm like, okay, why is this an error? Is this a problem right here? And the answer is it doesn't have placeables / farmers co-op. So I'm assuming those are part of the farmers co-op, but since I don't know these things backwards and forwards, I'm going to look. So I'm going to come over here to my little tree. I'm going to look at the farmers co-op, and I'm going to see this only has sheds. This only has sheds, and then it has a pallets. Fertilizer tank, herbicide tank, pro box. For whatever reason, this thing has its own pallets that it wants to include. So we're going to include those pallets that are part of the farmers co-op pack. I don't think I saw coop. Coop. What's coop? What is this? LJR Modding's co-op. This actually isn't in the map, but it's in the zip file. I don't even know what it is. So it's in the map. It's included in the map. So I'm going to go ahead and include it in the zip file. So we're going to call it. It's called Coop Co-op, and then co-op.xml. We're going to include it just to be sure because it's here and it looks like he may have wanted to do it. It looks like it's a multi-fruit co-op. The URLs are updated already. So that one looks good. Perfect. And then the other thing we did here, and remember what we said before, is placeable types has to be the same. They have to be all in one. Specializations or translations have to all be in one set. And then there's this one here for one of the items is a TF placeable design, which you need a mod for this. So this is to support an external mod, which we're not using, which is totally fine. So let's see if there's any errors. I don't know if there's going to be any errors. Obviously, this is the first time I'm doing this, first time I'm looking at this file. So let's find out if there's if we broke everything. We could have. But let's see. Guess I'm sitting closer to the screen today. My camera's too big. This one. There we go. It just looked weird because it's like my camera's like just weird. Anyways, career, start a new career. So when you're editing a map, here's a key, and this is a big key. When you're editing a map, you do not create a save game. You load into the map, you check your changes, exit out, you never save. And the reason is because when you're editing a map, you're making changes to that map. And many of those changes, especially changes to the terrain or the placeables files or things like that, if you make a change to the placeables file, you're going to have to create a new save game. So we never actually create a save game. So we're not going to care about the settings. The settings do not matter. Okay, continue. Now we have the right thumbnail icon, which is the one thing we wanted. I'm not going to include this extra stuff. This is just other stuff that I'm working on. But we're only going to include the map. So when you're testing a map, only include the map. And that will highlight if your map is looking at other stuff that it needs and you're not actually loading that stuff. So as you can see, we already have some red errors in the map, which is fine. It's still loading. It's not stopping. Okay. Done. Start. Now, as you can see, the map loaded. It looks fine. No problem. Buildings are here. Most of them. We haven't checked every single building, but for the most part, the map is here. It looks good. That's all we needed to check. Now, we can look at our log. So we're going to quit out of the game because we don't need to see the game right now. And we're going to go to the next thing. Quit. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is look at the log. So this is my log. This is my game folder. If you don't know where your log is, this is where your log is. So if you can find your save game folders, you see where it says save game 1, 2, 3, 4 to 20. This is where to look for. So in the same folder your save games are, which is Farming Simulator 25, it might be in Steam or Epic or wherever this file is. This is usually in your documents folder. You're going to come all the way down here to the bottom. You're going to open log.txt. Now the log.txt will show you the log from the last time you started the game. But if I start the game right now, it's going to overwrite this log. It's going to go away, which means I will lose that log. So if I need to look at the log, you either look at it while the game is running or immediately after exiting the game. But as soon as you start the game, even if I just come in here and I click on this right here to start the game, or however you start your game, it will clear this log, it'll delete it, and start a new one. And so that's how the log works. It doesn't keep them. But as you can see, there's a bunch of errors here. And so if we look, let's highlight those errors. So we have, if we find, we're going to find errors. So there's these errors right here. There's errors here. There's errors here. And error there. Okay, so let's see what errors we can fix. Some of them are probably going to be easy to fix. There is no gas station. So config gas station doesn't exist. So somewhere we're trying to load a configuration for a gas station, and that doesn't exist. That should be relatively easy to fix. The Harvestor 20 by a bunch of the Harvestor stuff is not loading. So let's look at the Harvestor and see what's going on. So BSL Harvestor. And it looks like, just like I expected, that he's only including the things that he wants in this map. So he's not including the other versions of the Harvestor, which is part of the BSL Harvestor pack. He's only including the one we want. So it was my mistake. It was in this file, so I made it work. But now we have to unmake it work, essentially. And we are not including the other versions of the Harvestor because they don't exist. He doesn't want them to exist. So only the one that's on the map. And if you remember, there's a texture issue with that one. So we can look at that real quick. Placeables, BSR Harvestor, Store, Fermenter. That's fine. And then if we look here, data shared. And see these things are going to have problems. Harvestor, farm silo. One diffuse, that should be. And so these paths now are wrong because these paths right here are relative to the placeable, but not relative to the map. So when it tries to load these files, there's a good chance all of these files are going to be wrong or they're not going to work. Store Harvestor textures galvanized.tds. Store Harvestor galvanized. So I would suppose that you need to do this same thing right here to get it to work. And that's why the Harvestor looks crappy. So I'm going to change one thing on this file, and then we'll see if it works for this file, and then we might have to do it for some other files too. So, oops, I didn't include the slash. Careful, your paths have to actually be worked. So this file name is placeables harvestor converter, blah, blah. So we have to make sure those paths are relative to the map. I think, not 100% sure, but that's what I think is going on. So, you know, actually, maybe not. Because we had the logo on it, right? And the logo was working, right? guess we'll worry about the harvestor later. But if we look at our map, okay, we had some problems with the harvestors. We just fixed that. The shape leg from map blah 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 is too big. So the shape. This is the silo. This means the silo is actually built into the map, which is weird. It's not a placeable. We could change it to be a placeable and that error might go away. Other errors. Again, this is again the shit. It looks like this file is in here twice. See that? Like the placeable for the grain silo. We're getting an error here for the grain silo thing because it's too big, right? In the placeable for the silo, but then the actual silo is actually in the map also, which is causing it to throw an error, which is kind of weird, right? But we'll dig into that. But that's going to be kind of, we'll worry about a lot of the more of the placeables next time. The one thing I want to get into right now is the farmlands. And the farmlands is, to me, one of the more critical issues. And let's go in here, and I have a list. I have a bunch of screenshots that I took. Where is that screenshot folder? Did I lose it? I thought. Don't tell me I lost it. Oh, here it is. To do. It's map US to do. All right, so I have a bunch of screenshots. And this is what we're going to fix today. This is going to be the next thing we fix. So the next thing we're going to fix is the map itself. So the farmlands. The farmlands is kind of a critical one. We've done this before on this stream, but basically each one of these screenshots is a farmland to fix. And we'll go through them. It'll be relatively quick to fix them. But to do that, we need to open up the map itself. So we're going to open up the map in Giants Editor. I'll try to explain how I'm doing things in Giants Editor as I go along, in case this is your first time seeing Giants Editor and your first time being here. While I'm waiting for this to load, I'm going to say hi to everybody because I haven't really even said hi. Hi, everybody. How's it going? I see Bruce's Gaming, Model Houseman being really chatty in there. Thank you very much. John Trailboss, welcome in. CS Benji, Jay Meister, welcome in. Thank you for being here. Northern Farm Sim was here earlier. Thank you for being here. Nacho Cast, if you guys are still here. Joe Otumuro is here. David, everyone, thank you so much for being here and thank you for coming out. And I know there's 18 current viewers, which is great. Don't forget to hit that like button. Let YouTube know that I'm streaming, because if you don't hit the like button, YouTube doesn't know that I'm streaming. So you gotta tell YouTube that you like what you're seeing. So if we come into the map, okay, I can already see why we're having problems. So we come into the map, right? We're looking at the map, and you see how the silo's here? This silo is in here in the map as a placeholder. And what he's done is he's created a folder called placeholders, which says placeholders on create. So when the map loads, don't include these placeables. So basically it says on create, placeholders on create. So everything that's in this placeable, like this Sukup site, 81 by 20, 120 shop, this shed right here, the pole shed, whatever. He basically has them set in the map, but this little line that's here, this little line in this placeholders folder, this is totally part of the game. Basically tells the game, hey, don't render this into the game. Instead, render a placeable in its place. So, like, if you remember in the game, this shed right here is like a red and brown or something like that. But in the game, it's white. That doesn't matter. And the reason is because of this little one line here. on create, placeables on create. And basically to add that, if you wanted to add that to your own folder. So let's say the co-op, right? Which is, he has this little thing here. Co-op is like not here. And maybe he was planning on adding the co-op. I don't know. But let's add this, let's add the co-op just for the fun of it. So we're coming here and do on create, and we're going to do a script callback, add, and then placeables on create. Now, which means that anything I put into this folder right here, this co-op folder, won't get rendered in the game when the game starts. And I think if I remember correctly, this little lot behind the sheds, I think there's something there in the game when the game loads. But if I wanted to, I want to see what that co-op is. You guys want to see what that co-op is? Remember the one we found, the coop with all caps? Let's do that. We don't want that. Hold on, where's my folder system? Harrison Farms, placeables, coop, open. And now here's a little gotcha that was done that can cause a problem. So if I could Control B, put it here. And it looks like the co-op is a sell point of some kind. That's awesome. We should include that in the map because sell points are awesome. And always, whoops, hold on. I got all turned around by my mouse. We should include that into the map. And I know just where to include it too. So more sell points, good. We could turn this into a production if you wanted. We could call it a co-op production. But for right now, let's actually fly over and put it where I'm thinking it's going to go. So one thing I'm thinking of this map is missing, and I talked to Harrison Farms about this already, is I think this map is missing a few productions. It's got these things here, which are all like buy points, but it's got this field behind here that's not being really used for anything. So I think this field behind here should be maybe a co-op. Maybe you'll put the co-op here. Oops, wrong one. Put the co-op here. Right. That. I was thinking of putting a BGA here too. But the big thing here is, see how I did this when I imported it? I imported it by reference. Now, when you import something by reference, that means that the game doesn't load its size into the i3D file. So when you import something by reference, it doesn't import the shapes. And the shapes are the biggest part. So when I import by reference, I'm not actually making this map bigger by importing this. Because it's only importing a reference to that the shapes for that, the shapes file for that is already still in that mod, which is being loaded by the game when the game loads. We don't want it in the map, but all we need is enough here to place it. So we'll deal with the coop later. But one thing we can do to kind of optimize the map is like this. This is our suck-up site. Suck-up? I don't know how to pronounce it. Suck-up? Suck-up sounds right too. But if you look, the Sukup site is being loaded normally, which means that this asset exists in the map and then it's not getting rendered, which means you have something that's very, very big and the shapes are very big, but it's not being rendered, but it's still loaded in the map, which means it takes up memory, which means it takes up file size. And so one thing we could do is just go in here. I'm going to replace it with the reference version. So I'm going to do import as reference. Come in here, placeables, suck up grain silo, the i3D. And as you can see, it's down here, right? And now if I bring this up here, I'm just going to drag it up here and put it in the same place, essentially. Put it in the placeholders folder. And then move it up here next to it. They're not in the same place. So this one has this position and this one is 0, 0, 0, right? Which is somewhere below the map. You can see it below the map. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this And I'm going to Control Shift C. Control Shift C will copy the X, Y, and Z all at once. We'll come over here, Control Shift V to paste all three all at once. Do the same thing with the positioning. This, Control Shift C. And then we'll come down here to my reference, Control Shift V. And now there's two buildings, one on top of the other. I haven't changed anything. I haven't changed the map at all. And if I turn off the second one, as you see, it didn't shift at all. It's exactly in the same place, which is what I wanted. Now, here, I can hit delete. And now we still have this thing in as in our file, but now it's a reference to the what's going to be placed there, which means that it's loading even less memory, which means the map will load faster, which means that the file size will be smaller. So you always want, anytime you're placing buildings into a map, you don't want the building in the map if it's a placeable. You want it to be loaded as a reference. And so we could do that for all of these, the 81 by 120 shop. So come over here, import as reference, 81 by 120 shop, beige main, open. And unfortunately, you can't just edit it in place and say, hey, use this as a reference. I don't think you can. Maybe you can. Oh my God, you can. I didn't know that. I just learned something. Sweet. So this one, see, I just replaced it with a reference file. I don't need the full file. This shed is, which shed is this? I don't know what shed this is. If I come in here and replace with reference file. I want to say it's this one. No. I need to find one that says shed. Western Iowa shed? No, it's not that one. No, that's capital S for shed. American Shed Pack? No. I'm gonna guess that it's I'm gonna look back at my my XML file, which is right here. If I look at the mod desk, American Shed Pack, pole shed white, three-sided shed, shed BB maybe. I don't know. I don't know which one it is, but basically you want to replace every single one of these with a reference, which is going to speed everything up. And I can figure out which one it is by going in here to three-sided, I think it's a three-sided shed, honestly. Shed BB, and it says lean shed. If I open up the i3D file, the i3D file name is shed BB to i3D, and then the root transform group is shed. So we can always import it and make sure. Cancel. File, import. I'm gonna guess that's this one. Then we hit Control B and put it right here. So no, that's not the right one. This one's used somewhere else, so it's not this one. Let's do file, import as reference. We're trying to figure this out. I don't know this map very well, so I'm literally guessing here. Oh, this one's called shed. That's good. There we go. And so this shed, the Western Iowa shed, is the one we want. So we're going to come in here, delete, and then we're going to come over here. We're going to say replace with a reference file. I bet it's machine shed 2. And there we go. Perfect. Now we've replaced it with a reference. We want all of these to be references. This pole shed, I believe, is replaced with reference file. It's going to be in the American Shed Pack. Pole shed gray. Open. Sure. Good enough. Replace with reference file. Maybe it's pole shed white. Yeah, it was pole shed white. Replace with reference file. Bullshed white. Open. Perfect. Okay. And then all of these are the pre-placed things. Undo. I'm going to organize things a little bit. It says placeholder. User attributes. 2. Okay. This one and these, we're going to come in here and hit Control G, which is going to group them. And then these are pre-placed assets. Pre-placed assets should go, whoops, undo. So pre-placed farmhouse, that works with the new pre-placement system. So what does that mean? The new pre-placement system has pre-placed farmers market US. If we come over to user attributes, it has the same placeable on create, which means you can put it in your map and it's not going to render it. But this one links to an external XML file in the data directory. Now, these pre-placed things, this way of doing it, which is the new way, is broken right now. It only works with files in the data directory. It will not work for your own stuff. So I would prefer, and I think most map makers would prefer, that, I'm just reorganizing here, that most map makers would prefer that this logic here, for the placeholders, you'd be able to do the same thing. And it should work the same way, whether it's a modded map or not. Most map makers would prefer it to work that way. And it doesn't, which is just a bummer, right? Like, I don't understand why Giants didn't think that people would want to make a mod map and use this logic. Instead, we have to like write circles around it to use the same logic in a different way, which is just super annoying. So all of these are pre-placed. Most of them, like if we, what the hell? This should be here. So these are all the pre-placed things. This is not pre-placed, is it? Yeah, this one is not pre-placed. So this one's an actual thing. So all of the pre-placed blah, blah, blah should have those same user attributes. Yeah. So we're just going to move a lot of this stuff. We're just going to organize our map, because then we have gameplay and we have, and this should be here. This should be here. So really what you want in the root of your map from an organization standpoint, and this is just my way of organizing, so you can do you, I'm going to do me. But I would say that this here, this, oops, this goes in here. No, this goes in there. And I'm just organizing things a little bit. So basically we have a list of placeholders, which follow the placeholder on create thing. We have the pre-placed assets, which are the ones by Giants. And then we have placeholder 2, which is another set of placeholders that we're going to have to update every single one of these to use a thingy. Okay. So here I'm just reorganizing the map. This map should be right here. And again, you see there's a lot of stuff that's like kind of mixed. Like these pre-placed things, we should have all of our pre-placed stuffs all in one place. And the fact that there's multiple placeholders folders works. It does work. Don't get me wrong. It does work. But it's very confusing when you're looking at the organization of a map, because like your areas are not like the areas of your map should be kind of together. So like this is like I'd almost say that this is not placeholders. This is placeholder farm 1. All of the placeholders for farm 1 are there, right? And then maybe we have, I just had one. I'm going to undo a little bit. And then this is placeholders. Placeholders. Placeholders industrial, right? Pre-placed gas station. All our pre-placed assets are all there. We have to rename this one again. This is placeholders. Farm 1. Let's call this farm 2, because there's only 2 farms on the map. And then placeholder is industrial. Can go here, which means that we can put our chem shed. We can put the co-op here. We can put this. Whoops, undo. It's fine. Put this in farm 1 because it's part of farm 1. Farmhouse 1, which is where? Way over there. Special cow stable. That's farm 2. Farm 2. We're probably going to need another placeable folder, right? So we're going to do another placeable folder. So we're going to create not a light. Undo. Clicked on the wrong thing. And we're going to call this placeables decoration. This industrial. This is farm. Where's this one? This is going to be in decoration. Placeable farmhouse 01. What I'm doing is I'm looking around the map. So this is the main farm. So placeable farmhouse 01, this is part of the main farm. So I'm going to put this up here in placeholders farm 1. So I'm going to organize things a little bit by where things are in the game. That's farm 3. Farm 2. Pre-placed garage 01. Which is there. Put that in decoration. Liquid flat bottom tank. And we're obviously going to have to fix all of this stuff at some point. And then we'll put this in here. And so now we're starting to get organized. And we haven't moved anything. We haven't changed any buildings. Some of them we're going to update to be references like this. We haven't moved anything. Everything's the same. And the idea is that this item right here, when you go into, because it's a pre-placed garage, right? The game is going to look at this and be like, oh, on create, I'm not going to show this. It's going to be replaced by a placeable. And then if you look here at the transform group, right? We have 248, 423. Or actually it's pre-placed. So map US garage 01. So if we look at our actual placeables file, go back to the code a little bit, because the map is, it is what it is. If we come in here to not the placeables, our configuration file for placeables, and this file is very confusing. So we're gonna search. See what it says? Is this what we're doing? Pre-placed garage 01. Pre-placed garage 01. You see how this number? It ends in DA321. Come over here. DA321. So these unique IDs have to tie together. So this is basically saying, hey, this pre-placed thing is part of the farmland. When you buy it, it comes with whatever farmland it's on. And that's how the new pre-placed system works. The old system has to be done this way, which you include all this other stuff. You have to include, there's a unique ID, but you also have to include a position and a rotation and all of this stuff. You literally have to copy from the i3D file into XML. But this does all that for you if you do it the new way. The downside is that Giants doesn't allow map authors as of today to do that with their own stuff. It may have been updated since the last time I checked, but right now you can't. But we would have to go, we're going to have to go through at some point all of these placeables now that I've organized things a little bit. And see, we have very, very simple node tree now. We have gameplay, everything that affects gameplay, and we have Harrison Farms, and then we have Harrison Farms is all of the other stuff. Some of these things, like deco houses or the bridge, I think the bridge is fine. The deco houses should be here. These are all the deco houses, and again, these should all be by reference. I think this means they're by reference, but I'm not sure. But basically a deco house is like a house like this. It's just sitting there, not doing anything, not hurting anybody. But this is a deco house. Now, the thing with the deco houses, and we can change this, but the thing with the deco houses is they are not removable. Now, we can make them removable, but we're going to have to do a significant amount of work to make them removable. Basically, instead of pulling this building in as, so if we residential building 5, it just shows an example. Residential building 5. Fine, yeah, there's nothing here. If there's not in the placeables file. So it's actually built into the map. It's hard-coded in the map. And the reason you can't remove it is because it's hard-coded in the map. But I think, if I remember correctly, where's my data directory? We need a data directory. New game. Just kidding. Data directory here. If I search residential building, so see how we have all these residential building 3, residential building. If I look at residential building 5, it's right here. We're gonna go into the thing. Data, textures, buildings, blah, 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 blah. Here's all the residential buildings. But you notice there's no XML file for those residential buildings. So I could create a simple placeable XML file that is that residential building, point to these files, and then make every single one of those residential buildings removable, which is one of the things I'm going to do as we edit this map. Because personally, if I want to buy a piece of property and there's a building on it, I want to be able to not only buy all the property, which we'll talk about in a minute, but I also want to be able to remove whatever's there so that I can turn into a field, right? That's, to me, that makes sense. So eventually we'll make all these residential buildings removable. For now, we're going to look at bright colors. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out and hit save to make sure we update all of our changes we made for the where stuff is in the file tree. Then we're going to go into terrain info paint mode. Like my second favorite thing to do. So we go into terrain info layer paint mode. Basically, when you paint, when you're in this mode, you're not painting on the map, you're painting on an info layer. So imagine it like a piece of tissue paper or a piece of like clear plastic on top of the map. And when you paint on it, you're painting in colors like you're in preschool. It's not painting anything big. What those colors mean is all defined down here in the bottom right. I hope you can see this. It says info. The one we're looking for today is farmlands. So if I switch to farmlands, as you can see, it turns into all kinds of pretty colors. What we're going to fix is the pretty colors. For example, if I go to farmland 3, right? I switch that to farmland 3. It highlights in white whatever color you're currently painting. So as you can see, farmland 3 includes this main farm, which is great. But for some reason, and this is the part that I don't understand, it also includes little teeny tiny bits of border around this field, which I think is farmland 5. And it also includes this area over here for no reason. And I don't want it to. I only want it to include that stuff. So whenever you're painting farmlands always has like an overwrite action. You never want to delete. Yes, you can right click and delete. If I right click and delete, see how it actually deleted that spot? That's not a good thing. Mainly because the game needs every single pixel to be painted or it'll throw an error. So whenever you're painting on farmlands, think that I'm just going to replace what's there with my new color. So for this area, we're going to replace this area with another color. For now, I'm just going to pick farmland 69. Just for the sake of it, I'm going to paint farmland 69. And we'll probably change that later. But that's fine. And I'm going to be pretty sloppy about it because we're going to fix all of the rest of it. But if I paint this right here, right? Now, if I select farmland 3, now farmland 3 does not include this area down here because I don't want it to. It only includes this area up here, which is what I want. We switch back to our to-do list. I took screenshots of all this stuff. So farmland 3. See how it says farmland 3 here and these other things are highlighted for whatever reason? I don't want that to happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix the places that, so we already removed this from being part of farmland 3. We will include it as part of your starting places if you need it to be, but we're not going to include it right now. Well, also we have to fix this one right here on farmland 7. So farmland 7, for some reason, we go back to the map. See how these like little white borders around farmland 7 for some reason are owned by farmland 3, which doesn't make sense because it means if you buy this field, you don't own this field, then you're going to own these little teeny tiny bits of land around that field. And that doesn't make sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, go to farmland 7. And now farmland 7 is all white. You're like, well, where'd the other white go? And the answer is right here. And you can kind of see it if you zoom in really, you have to zoom in pretty far. And I don't need, I want this panel to be bigger, so I'm going to put this over here for now. And then I want a window. True. Brush square. So what I'm going to do, if you kind of look at it, there's these two fields that are right next to each other and just grass in between them. And so if I want to be able to merge those two fields, right now I can't, because I would have to buy this field, I would have to buy this field, this one right here, I'd have to buy this field, and I'd have to buy this field. I'd have to buy all those fields just to be able to merge those two fields together, which from a gameplay perspective kind of stinks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, and whenever I paint in info paint mode, I always like to sneak up on it like this, because anytime I don't, I have to go over it again. And so we're just going to pick the midpoint between those two fields. And since this road isn't straight, we can't be a perfectly straight line. We're just going to pick the middle of the road and call that this field. And again, over here, same thing, where we have multiple fields, little teeny tiny traces of green. I don't even know which field green is. I don't care. That's a farmland somewhere else. And so I have to go through and around. It's a very, very tedious process. But basically what we're doing is we're getting rid of all of those overlaps that exist with other fields that don't matter to this situation. What that means is when you're in the game and you're playing, if I buy this one field and I buy the next field, I can merge them together without having to own lots of other stuff. Right? And that's kind of the goal. This map doesn't have real roads. It has regular roads, but just to make things simple, I'm going to go all the way up to the middle of the road with my painting. And that means you're going to own part of the road. Not a big deal, but it does make things simpler instead of having a block somewhere on the map where you own the roads as a thing. So we're just going to square this off. Whoops. And so there's a problem. So when you overwrite and you paint on something you didn't mean to paint, I usually just like to leave it because if you start doing if you press your undo key, things get all weird. And see all these little pieces. Oops. If you do undo, see sometimes it works. Sometimes see I just did undo and it didn't work. So undo key is kind of problematic. So try to stay away from it. I'm just trying to get rid of these pink areas, which are some field that I don't know about. To paint, I'm clicking once with my regular mouse button, and I'm holding on the Alt key and then moving around the map. When I hold on the Alt key, then my middle mouse button allows me to move around the map. My right mouse button allows me to zoom in and out, but only while I'm holding that middle mouse key, or holding the Alt key. All right, so let's fix this one. So what field is that next to it? This is why I keep these little screenshots. The field next to it is field 9. So this is field 9, so we'll come over here to farmland 9. Now farmland 9 is right here. And I'm going to make sure that one farmland goes right up to the next. Like this. And I can see the grass still, so I can kind of keep an eye on the line to make sure that they're kind of meeting right in the middle. And I'm also looking to make sure there's no other colors here. Because adding another color, like this right here with the trees, like that's 1, 2, 3, 4 different farmlands all in the same spot. And that's going to become very problematic for dealing with your farm later on. Make sense? So now if we zoom out, what did we fix with that little bit of work? Well, what we did fix is if we come in here and we look at farmland 3 again. Farmland 3, if we look at the whole map, I shouldn't have any white. As you can see, we still have some white here and a little bit here. Now we need to get rid of that. And also, actually, if you look at farmland 3, farmland 3 itself needs to be edited. And this is the most tedious part of the map making process, in my mind, is defining the farmlands. Whoops. Sometimes undo works, sometimes it doesn't. So just be aware of that. So I want farmland 3 to go right up to the center of the road. We're going to own the road on both sides. And of course, as I use my scroll wheel to make my paintbrush bigger, it just makes this a little bit faster, but it's a little bit harder to sneak up on those lines. But like, as you can see right here, there's like 3 different things. And that's one of the bigger problems that I found with this map, is that there's a lot of farmlands where there's little traces of old farmlands around the edges of fields, which means that you can't merge those fields, which means that you can't merge them if I wanted to. So if I want to take farmland 3 and merge it with this other one over here, I can't. That's annoying, right? Personally, that makes the map less playable to me. Now here's an interesting gotcha and how to fix it. Since I'm in terrain info paint mode, I can't touch the trees. If I go out of paint mode and I highlight one of the trees, most map makers, if they're good, will put all of the trees in the map area. They'll put them all in one folder. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to come over here to visibility and I'm going to hide the trees. Now, I don't hide the foliage. If I wanted to hide the foliage, I go into here, view, show foliage and turn that off. I actually like the foliage. It helps me kind of gauge where the edges of the fields are. So I like to keep the foliage on. But now, if I click off the tree, now I'm not selecting the trees. The trees are still there. I didn't get rid of them. I just hid them for now. So if I go back into paint mode, now I can see if my lines are straight. And it looks like for the most part they are. And I'm just going to make our farmlands butt up to each other all around and make nice clean lines and nice clean intersections between fields. Because from my perspective, that's like right here, there's 4 different farmlands right here in that little teeny tiny space. And I don't want that. That's farmland 4 and 5. So this is 4, this is 5. So if I go to 4, I'm going to bring 4 right up here to the corner. That's an interesting song. And then 5, do the same thing. Bring farmland 5 right up to the corner. And then all of these farmlands meet on a nice clean line, which means if you own 4 and 5, you'll be able to merge them. If you don't do this work when you're building your map, you won't be able to merge farmlands, which in my mind makes the map less playable, because you'll get to a point where it'll give you, oh, you can't plow here, you don't own this farmland. And as a player, that's a bummer, a huge bummer. Now, by painting the road, here's one caveat, and this is just so you know. By including the roads as part of the farmlands, technically you're paying for the road, right? At a high level. You're paying for part of that road is now part of your farmland. So the area of your farm now includes a road. That means that your farmland is going to cost a little bit more. But from a new player's perspective, they're not going to know the difference. It's just going to be basically make it so I can paint and I can do whatever all the way up to the edge of my field without any questions, no problems, no issues, 100% of the time, which is what you want. So we create these nice clean lines, clean corners. This field 13. And so I'll jump around a little bit as I'm doing these fields and include all the fields, make sure I'm not missing anything. Right? But as you see, like as I'm painting multiple colors. And that's what's the issue is with this map, is that there's lots of stray traces of other fields around the borders of fields that are completely unrelated. And that to me creates a playability problem. So like this field right here has all these like pieces on it that are parts of other fields, which doesn't make sense to me. Why would you want that? As a player, you definitely wouldn't want that. Hey, Waylon and David, thanks for being here, guys. Now I'm gonna finish up with. I'm not gonna do the whole map today. Maybe I'll do it off stream, and we'll work on the placeables and stuff like that next time. But I'm gonna finish up with a bunch of these fields. What I'm doing now, and then we'll go in the game and look at it, and see what it changed. See how, if at all, it got better. Right, so if we go back to farmland 4, I think it was, the other side of this border. We want to go right up to the pink. And you can overlap, you can adjust to where these are as you go. Like I might overlap that because I went too far on the pink. Just so it kind of matches what I'm seeing. But what you don't want is you don't want multiple colors all like stacked on top of each other, because that means that those pieces of land are not included. Now here's another thing. If I'm buying farmland and I'm buying like farmland 4, let's see if I got a better picture of it. I did it later when I was here. Now here's a weird thing. If I buy field 17, if I buy field 17, I'm also going to get the farm that's right around farmland 4. That to me doesn't make sense. So if I'm buying farmland 4, I'm going to expect that the field that I'm right next to is going to come with my farmland. So farmland 4 should, farmland 4 should include this farm, because they're part of the same like block of land. I shouldn't have to buy another plot of land that's way far away, it's not related at all to my farm, just to be able to get access to the farm that's right next to it. It's kind of like buying it's like buying a house, but your driveway and your garage is down the street. Like that doesn't make sense. Why would you ever want that to happen? And so by painting over what was here, we're fixing those things. Like this field right here. This field right here is farmland 18. And if you look, there's green stuff. I don't know what that is. That's another farmland. Maybe one of my screenshots has it. So like 18 also includes borders around 3, which is just silly. I don't even know where it is. They're all over the place. And so like these I just don't get it. So whatever this is farmland 18. And you could be here forever kind of perfecting this stuff. But the best part is you only have to do it once. So when you're building your map, you're setting it up this first time, the first time you paint the farmlands, you do this once. And then you never have to touch it again unless you change kind of like the layout of your farms. But logically, you want these, you want these things to line up. And you want them to go right up next to each other. You don't want there to be gaps, because gaps mean you can't merge fields. And we all know how annoying that is as players. Now here you can see, if I zoom in, here it's a little bit hard to see because the grass is there, that I got all the pixels. Because some of the pixels are grass colored, that becomes a problem. So if I do this, right click, show foliage, I turn off the grass for a minute, go back into Linfo paint mode, I can see that I totally messed up when I was painting this one. So go back to farmland 4 and correct this line. Right? But you can, with the foliage off, you can really see how all these extra colors are just problems. And problems that you have to fix. This is farmland 17. That could be forever. Okay. 3 minutes, I'm going to stop. And of course, with a bigger map, you're going to have to do this with bigger areas. So I actually did this same editing. I don't know if anyone remembers Westby. The Westby map, which is a very interesting map, had a lot of these same problems with owning farmlands. And I don't know why it happened, but basically there was like 6 colors, like striped border around, it's kind of like a striped border around every field. There was 6 colors around every single field. And so to fix that map effectively, you had to fix all of those striped border things. Right? 16. And again, see this green, this means it's like this 1 pixel of land in between these 2 fields you wouldn't be able to buy because it's owned by someone else somewhere else on the map, which doesn't make sense. Hey, Farm Garage, welcome in. Thanks for being here. Uh, 15. I'm like in the zone now. Totally in the zone with this painting stuff. I'm trying to get rid of the brown. So the brown on here, the brown is like the outside, the unbuyable land essentially. And nobody likes unbuyable land. And then like to someone else to own that last like little bit to the edge of the map, like that doesn't make sense. And again, like this is the weird thing. Like so right here between 13 and 15, right? If we zoom in, this is what I'm doing right now. Or where I am right now. Where am I? 14? 15. I'm on 15. So this area in between 13 and 15 is owned by someone else. So for me, logically, I would say that 15 should come with this little bit of land, unless it's buyable separately. But there's nothing here, so I'm just going to include it as part of 15. Like, to me, that makes sense. And then I can get a nice, crisp, straight line if I paint properly. With no issues. Right? And then 14. And then 14. Okay. See what I'm saying? Like, field 14 is this field on the edge of the map, but it doesn't own its own borders. So the borders that are around field 14 aren't owned by field 14. They're owned by someone else. That doesn't make sense. And then the area below 14, which is just grasslands, if I want to buy 14 to make a farm, I can't because those pieces of land are owned by someone else. That doesn't make sense. And again, some map authors might choose to do that, but I'm editing, so I think it doesn't make sense, so I'm going to change it. Trying to make the gap between 13 and 14 look better. There we go. And so now we have these nice tight lines between the field. Yeah, after a couple hours, you need a timeout. So obviously I'm not fixing everything. So let's just save and let's see what it looks like. How do we change? How do we do anything? Obviously, I'm getting close to the end of my stream, so we should actually check it out. So I'm gonna leave the game it open. Doesn't matter. What did we fix? I mean, I've been going in and literally painting pixel by pixel. Every one of those pixels, by the way, is 1 square meter in the game. So there's 2048 pixels across, 2048 pixels high on a regular 2 kilometer by 2 kilometer map. When you're painting info layers, you're painting pixel by pixel, and each pixel is 1 square meter. And that 1 square meter is, do you own that square meter of land? If there was a tree in the center of that square meter, will you have the right to cut it down? And the answer is no, if you don't own the land. So go in here. Again, new game. We have to create a new game every time. That's how it works. I haven't done anything other than hit save in GE. Actually, please make sure I hit save in GE. Yes, I hit save GE. You wouldn't believe how many times I've loaded all the way into GE and been like, oh yeah, I totally saved. Yeah, of course. And then I realized that I get there, but I haven't saved it all. Okay, we still have that warning about the suck up silo, but that's the suck up silo. It's not warning us on the map anymore. So we actually fixed a couple of them, fixed a couple of those errors that were showing up in the log already by some of the stuff we do. And the goal here is to get all those errors fixed. So we come in here, and we go into the map, escape, and then we look at the farmlands. Now, we own farmland 3, right? Now, as you can see, we used to own all down here. We still own a little bit down here, right? But farmland 3 is a lot more squared off. And if I wanted to buy 13, if you look, 13 is right up against farmland 3. 14 right up against farmland 3. Field 5 right up against farmland 3. So that gives me the ability, and we did it over here too, right? If we look into these areas, it means one area butts up right up against the other. Now farmland 15 is including the little grass area next to it. Farmland 14 including the grass area next to it. This would be a great place to build another farm right here at the end of the map. If we visit it, like we look, this is a nice field right at the bottom of the map. And then hypothetically, you could be like, oh, I want to buy field 14. And field 14 now, it didn't before, but now it includes this little bit of grass right here below the field, which butts up against the road, which means you could build yourself a little farm right here, where before you couldn't. It was not buyable land. And so we're fixing problems. And like the other one here, let's go one more. Now that we see what we've done, let's compare. Here's the other problem. We talked about this as part of the tour. Field 19. Field 19 does not include the little piece in the middle. The little piece in the middle is part of field 15, which doesn't make sense. Field 14, I click on field 15, and I include the middle of field 19. That doesn't make sense. If I'm going to buy field 19, I want to be able to remove these buildings, and I want to do either one of two things. I either want to buy the field and not include the land in between, and then buy that land in between on its own, not as part of some other field somewhere else, or I want that land to become part of the field. So for my perspective and the way that I think about it is like the unbuyable land around field 5 is unbuyable land. It's part of farmland 1. Farmland 1 is the unbuyable land, right? It's the way that all map makers used to make their maps. We're going to change that. We're going to get rid of farmland 1, and farmland 1 is going to be somewhere logical. So I'm actually considering, like, if we took it farmland 1, it's all the unbuyable land, but we're going to make farmland 1 better, and farmland 1 is actually going to be a farmland somewhere. I'm thinking of making farmland 1 with the sawmill, because it's pretty close. This field right here. Oh, actually, no. This field right here is part of Farmland 1. So when you buy this field, it's $3.6 million, which is silly. And you get the whole map, which doesn't make sense at all. So I want Farmland 1 to just be this field. Farmland 2 is just this field, including this little piece. Field 19 is just this field, including this little piece, and including the little areas around it. And then we're going to have to add more farmlands for the other areas. So like this field 25, there's a field across here. And there's like, I would like this area right up here to be one field. So we can go ahead and edit that stuff very easily. The farmland 1 issue is going to be a little bit harder to do. Because if we look at farmland 1 here, and I zoom out, right? Right now, farmland 1 is like the entirety of the map. And so for every place where this color exists, I'm going to have to overwrite that color with other things. So you can see like the little gaps here everywhere. Farmland 1 will be like the last thing I touch, because as I edit all of these other fields and fix the lines in between them and fix the gaps and stuff like that, then like I want it to include this farm. So let's start there. All right, this is all farmland 1. So now this block is farmland 1, which is great. But like field farmland 5, like if I'm farmland 5 and I come in here, I want to do farmland 5. Farmland 5 either includes these extra fields or not. I'm going to have it include it because it makes sense for me to include it. And so farmland 5 is going to include these little spaces, include the farms that are on them, which is fine. Right, so now field 5 is going to be all of those things. And then I'm going to make these buildings that are on here all removable. So when you buy it, it's going to be bought with farmland, and you can just delete it. And if you want to just like kill the trees here and mow all that stuff out, go for it. It's your farmland. You own the land, not just the field. That's the biggest problem with Farm Sim 25, is that now you can only have one field per farmland. Before, you could have multiple fields in a single farmland, or have fields actually being multiple shapes. In Farmland FS25, you can't do that, which I think is a bummer. What was the other one we said we're going to fix? 19. Like 19 should include this part right around it. Like it's silly that it doesn't. It should include this little area right next to it. Like why not? I need to stop using this mouse. The mouse is making me angry. Okay, this mouse will work better. Yes, I have 2 mice on the same computer hooked up to the same thing. One's cabled in, one's Bluetooth. Right? So now we'll have to deal with a road later. What farmland is this one? So we're still in the game, actually. So farmland 2 should also include the cutout. So we go to farmland 2. Farmland 2 does include the cutout, which is great, but it doesn't include all of the land, which is silly. And there's other people who own land around it. Right, so we're including like the gaps. We're including those pieces. Like this is a farmland, but if you buy fields somewhere else, it includes that piece of land. Like, where is this? This was really dumb. So field 21, farmland 21, right here. I'm in the game. Farmland 21 only includes that farmland, but this field area right here is part of farmland 12 over here on the other side of the map. Like, what the heck? Like, that doesn't make sense at all. So let's fix it quick. we're just going to do this. And then we're going to come over here. We're going to go to, what is this? Farmland 21. So farmland 21. Farmland 21 is going to include the forest and the buildings that are on it. And so now, like, we're much more solid as far as, like, what the ownership of these fields are, right? Farmland 22. Up to the edge of the map. Don't have someone else own that. You can own that as part of Farmland 22. Farmland 25. Like, a lot of these are quick and easy edits to make. Oops, I do. And you can do them really zoomed out, which is makes it fast. But this is Farmland 25, which includes this field. But maybe, for a roleplay perspective, you want to include all the way up to a road, which is one of the other things we're going to have to fix with this map. A lot of the fields don't have a road connecting them to the field. There's no way to get to those fields. They're, like, in the middle of other fields. And so now, Farmland 25 is going to be this whole strip up here. And if we zoom in, you know, we'll do the same thing we did with the other ones. Right, there's a road here. Oh. Am I making it smaller or bigger here? What's going on here? I'm looking for the road. I know there's a road here, but I can't see it. Oh. That's the end of the road? That's kind of silly. Okay. And then Farmland 21. Switch to 21. The reason I keep a map open or keep another game open is so that I can navigate between them, because trying to keep your mental mind where things connect is really hard. So that's why I have, like, either the game open or I have those screenshots. Because if you remember, all of this stuff that's like this brownish color, that's all Farmland 1. And we don't want Farmland 1 to be all over the map. We want it to be just where it is. I spend a lot of time painting with the square brush, but this is one of those places where the round brush is much better. So you're painting at an angle. Round brush is much easier. We're gonna, you can see there's a little bit of slope here. So we're gonna paint up to the like the bottom of the river, I guess. And then this is 19, so we're gonna come over here, 19. Okay, that song is driving me crazy. And we're paint right up to the other field. So one field goes to the next, and if we wanted to merge these fields, we can. Switch back to our square brush. Kind of wish there was like a hotkey for that. I toggle between the regular brush and the square brush all the time. 2. See the road now that I'm zoomed in this far. Like, you just kind of see the faintness of the road there. And so basically I'm going to have since these are all gravel roads, there's no reason not to own the road. Whereas if you were like playing with like textured roads, you wouldn't want to own the road, because then it would cause an issue if you tried to like edit around that area, or you tried to merge fields, because you can't get rid of the roads. Whoops. So here I did that by mistake. So that's a mistake. I removed, see how it says right mouse button to subtract? I didn't synchronize my left and my right hand and subtract. Now, if I loaded the game with it like this, where there's nothing painted on this spot, it's going to give me an error. The game will give you an error saying, hey, not all pixels are being used by the game. Please fix your farmland definition. So every pixel has to have a color. You can't have pixels without colors. It doesn't work. Yeah, for the most part, a farm garage, this map is very, very squared off, right? And so painting with a square brush for most of it makes sense. But only because the map is built the way it is. Normally, I paint everything with a round brush, mainly because when I'm building maps, all my fields are soft in some way. Where am I? I don't even know where I am on the map. I think I'm 11. Is that 11? Or 1? Might be 1. Yeah, so this is farmland 1. As you can see, there's other colors inside. And that, like, if you did something like this would cause a huge problem because you'd be able to draw, paint, plow all around where the white area is, but these little spaces you wouldn't be able to paint or control in any way, which means because you don't own that land, it's not yours. And so because of that, that just causes big problems from a gameplay perspective, where, you know, this is grass and you'd be able to mow like very kind of, I don't know what the right word is, not shoddy, but very like segmented pieces of grass. And even here, like there's a color here somewhere, another farmland somewhere else on the map owns that little square of land, which doesn't make sense. So we're going to do this. We're going to own right up to the middle of the road. You can kind of see the road in the shadows of what I'm painting here. And now they meet right up at the edge. And if I hit save, over here I'm going to quit out, create a new game. Again, you have to create new games whenever you make changes to the farmlands or anything else. You have to quit out of the game completely. Go and create a new game. You have to quit out of the game completely, and you have to create a new save. There are some changes that you can hot reload. You just like store items, reload, placeable items, reload. You can actually, there's console commands in the game that you can do that, but you can't reload the map, as far as I know. If someone knows how to reload the actual map, then that would save me a lot of time, so please let me know. So we're going to go career, here, not Riverbend Springs. I do that all the time. I don't know why. Continue. I'm going to mute real quick. Deselect all. Start. One secret, if you guys want to know a secret. If you notice when my game is loading, it's loading with the circle is not round. It's kind of oblong. And that's because I'm loading at laptop resolution. So my game is currently at its laptop resolution because I'm running on a laptop. But the game will actually load faster because it's loading at a lower resolution, and the computer will run faster. And if I'm just doing really quick stuff with a map, I set my stuff really low. So farmland 1, you can't see it because it's behind here, now includes that farm, which it didn't before. Farmland 2, as you can see, we just fixed it. Farmland 2 includes this area right here. So if you want to merge those fields, you go ahead. Farmland 5, it's this block here. So it includes all these spaces. We'll have to later on make those buildings removable, which we will. But then you can set up a farm here. You can put your shop here. You can put a cannery here, a production there. Farmland 19, again, same thing. Now Farmland 19 includes these little things in the middle, which means if I buy 19, and then I sell those 2 buildings, assuming that they're sellable, and we'll make sure they're sellable, then I'll be able to sell it. And, farmland 20 goes right up to the gap road between 25. 25 now goes all the way over here to this road. 21 now includes these areas. You can kind of see what we're doing. Like 22 goes all the way up to the edge of the map. 25 all the way to the edge of the map. 23 doesn't go to the edge of the map because we haven't fixed that yet. Or like this, 23 isn't a good example. Like, okay, there's a bunch of houses around 23. If we look at 23, but it's part of the unbuyable land. What if I wanted to get rid of these houses and make a cool, like, horizontal farm right here on this land? I don't want to have to spend $3.1 million. I just want to buy farmland 23, get rid of these houses, bulldoze it, and create a cool farm right here. The idea for these kind of maps, especially American style maps, is you want to be able to customize it and make it look the way you want. And so my goal here if I'm making an improvement to this map, my goal in making that improvement is making it so it's as playable as possible. As playable as possible. So I will go ahead and finish up the farmland stuff. As you can see, we're kind of well on our way. The goal here at the end is farmland 1 will be centered right here in the middle of farmland 1. And all of the rest of the stuff on the map will be buyable in some other way. We haven't talked about it. And here's the last thing we'll talk about. So I want to turn this area up here into another farmland, right? I want this area up here to be buyable, just because I want to be able to buy the whole map. I want to be able to make another really long, thin field up here. Now, in game, if we look, let's look at it in game. Right, we got these long, big open fields. There's no trees on the map because if you remember, I hid the trees, so it looks kind of weird. But up here, you have this long open area. You have, I'm assuming there's trees on this plot of land, but maybe you want to, maybe this plot right here, all along here, is a forestry area, and we actually add a forestry area to this map. I'll talk to SMB see what he says about that. But I want this whole area to the left of the road to be buyable. I'm assuming it has lots of these little trees here. But let's turn it into a forestry area. Let's have that be a goal. But the first thing we need to do is make it buyable. Maybe it's 2 pieces because that whole thing is 1 piece. Maybe that's not enough. So maybe you buy right up to this driveway of the farm and there's 2 pieces. How do you do that? Like how do you make a farmland that doesn't exist? Okay, let's talk about that. So we're going to quit out of the map. And we're going to make a farmland that doesn't exist. That's going to be the last thing we're going to do today. Okay. So we want, right now, this block of stuff up here is farmland 1. We highlight it. It's all farmland 1. We don't want it to be. We want it to be something else. Thank you very much, A Farm Garage, for remembering to tell people to hit the like. Now we have lots of farmlands available, right? So looks like the map is set up to be up to 100 farmlands, which is good. If it wasn't set up to be up to 100 farmlands, we'd have to add more. And I'll do a different tutorial video on how to do that. But we want to take a farmland that's up high in the list, and we want to basically take the next farmland. So I'm going to take whatever the next number is, and I'm going to put it up here. And so if we go over to our game here, we close that. Farmlands. The highest number farmland that's in the map currently is farmland 30. And we said we want this to be forestry areas. So we're going to come over here. We're going to do this. I'm going to give myself another 10 farmlands to play with. So 31, 2, 33, 4, 5, 36, 37, 38, 39, and 40. So for now, the forester is going to be the NPC that controls them all. You need a link between what's in the game in here and what's here. So you need a link between those two, right? And now The next one is going to be farmland 31. That's the one I'm going to be working on. So I'm going to go here to 31. I can't count for some reason. And then I'm just going to paint. Now, whenever I paint, I'm painting in, again, every time we're painting something, we're painting in white. Right? So we're going to go right up here to this border right here. We're going to call that the border between 31 and 32. So this is going to be farmland 30. And we'll go, shoot, wrong button. Let's go here. I'm going to paint right up to the middle of the road. Like that. I wish there was a perfect edge in GE. You guys know how when you're playing with perfect edge, you're using that mod, you can just hold on the shift button and it like goes in a perfect straight line. I wish you could do that in GE. That would be epic. Please, Giants, add perfect edge into GE. That would be super cool. So now we've created farmland 31. Yay! Go up here. Farmland 5. Let's fix farmland 5 a little bit. All right. That's it. Now I'm going to save. Now I'm going to open up the game again. And that's it. That's all I have to do. And I've added a new farmland. And that new farmland will allow me to do whatever I want with that land. I didn't turn the trees back on. We could do that later. It doesn't matter. A backup button. They should do auto backups, honestly. I've had GE crash too many times and lost hours of work because I forgot to hit save all the time. So I instinctively am like, Control S, Control S, Control S, Control S whenever I can remember to do it. I wish it would just auto save every 2 minutes. But when you're working on a 16x map, you don't want to do Control S because 16x map is continue, deselect all, start. So while this is loading, I'm going to tell you what my plan is. The plan here is I'm going to create farmland 31, 32. I'm going to create this space right here, this triangle of space. It's 33. This field is going to go down to about here. I'm going to create this whole area in the back lower corner, either as like BGA or something like that. I'm probably going to use this area down here as more productions, or I'm going to have it all be an empty field. I might just use this corner here as an empty field. This will be a farmland its own. We do 69 for now, but we'll fix it. And then this area around here, the town area, we'll make that also buyable, but it'll be really cheap. And we can show you how to change how expensive it is. But we'll do that next time. Okay, so we got flight mode enabled. As you can see, no changes. Like the map didn't change. We didn't change anything at all, right? It's still the same. But if we look at the farmlands, now we have farmland 31 up here. We just created a new farmland, and I can buy this. It's going to be $286,000. If I wanted to change how much that cost, I go into here, go into farmlands, 31, price scale. Let's say I want it to be less expensive, 0.6. So this is going to be 60% of the value. Now, this map specifically has all of the price per hectare set at 1. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to turn down the price per hectare down to like 40 to make it a little bit less expensive, because right now it's very expensive. And then I'm gonna hit save, and then I'm done. And so now that we have farmland 31, farmland 5 goes right up to it, nice and clean. If I wanted to merge those two, I could, because there's just a dirt road in between them. Farmland 4 includes the farm. Like, we're getting really close. We're doing much better, and we're continuing to improve the map and kind of make it more playable. But as you've seen, the level of detail and the level of things that I need to do within within GE to get that stuff to work is going to be a lot of work. And so we're going to continue working on it. We'll work on it a little bit more next time. I'll probably finish the farmlands next time, and then we'll talk more about how to make things, decoration buildings, removable. And we'll make all of the buildings on the map removable, so that anytime you buy a piece of land that includes other stuff, you can remove that stuff and then build your farm there. So not only are we going to make it with more space, like you get more land when you buy fields, but if you want to customize those things that are there and remove the stuff that's there and build your own weirdly shaped farm, go for it. Have fun. And I think that's the important part, is making it playable. And we're trying to improve the map. We're not trying to change it. We're not trying to change the shape of the fields. As you can see, I didn't touch the shape of any of these fields. But yeah, that's it. And actually, to A Farm Garage, yeah, you can control it. So there's 3 ways to control the price per acre. You either change the overall map's price per hectare, which is the price for everything. And you can change the price scale here. This could be 2.0, which means that the farmland ID 1 is going to be twice as expensive. So it'll be whatever the area of the land is times 2 times however many hectares that are there. And if we look, farmland 1, or like farmland 2 as an example, is 10.82 hectares. So this price is 40,000, or right now it's 60,000 times 10 times 1, which is why it's $649,000. Makes sense. So by changing those prices, you control 100% the prices of the field. So if you look at the farmlands file for New Frontier, Ola manually went through in all of these farmlands and set the value based on how many trees are on each plot of land. So some of the ones with a lot of trees on them are more expensive. The ones with less trees on them are less expensive. And so he's evaluating in his mind how that's done. The game doesn't take into account those kind of things, like how much profit you can make off of that piece of land. That's something you have to do based on how you build your map. And that's just kind of part of building a map. It's part of doing it. But yeah, that's what it is. Anyways, I'm going to call for today. That's going to be it. And we will come back maybe tomorrow and do a little bit more and go into the next part of editing this map, and maybe making some buildings removable, making sure that we're getting rid of all those errors in the log. Maybe we'll even look at that leg for the SK up building and try to make it not as big as it is. I know why it is, but that would require Blender. So I'm not 100% sure that I have enough skill to do that. I might be able to do it. We'll see. But that's going to be it for me today. I want to say thank you for everyone being here. Crazy Gaming, Steve McGarrett, you guys came in right at the end. I'm so sorry. I'm just about to end, but thank you very much for being here. Thank you for watching. If you are football fans, isn't today the Super Bowl? I don't know. The Super Bowl's today, so if you want to watch some halftime shows, that's probably going to start soon. But other than that, I'm going to catch you guys later. Thanks for watching. Oh, it's tomorrow. Cool. Bye, everybody. Thank you. And a special thank you to all of the people who support this channel. It wouldn't be the channel that it is without all of the awesome people supporting this channel. This list does need to be updated. We got a couple more members come in the past couple days. I want to say thank you for all those members who did come in and sponsored the channel. And thank you very much for your impact, and including the amazing impact people who support directly through Ko-Fi. If you wanted to donate to the channel, there's a link in the description below. If you want to be a supporter, feel free to join. I'm just trying to make all of this involved. Our top tier of supporters, where you can get one-on-one modding help, and we're going to be doing a little bit of that today for one of our members. So there is benefits to there. If there's something you want to learn, it's something you want to do, feel free to join. It's not needed, but it's greatly appreciated. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'll catch everyone next time. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.